refer to ourselves as an award-winning show. Or at least one interview we did was award-winning. So anyways, I hope we win, or at least place our show. We'll look forward to the big announcements being made. I just got that email this afternoon. Still kind of excited about all that kind of stuff, Tom. But you and I started a conversation earlier today off air. And the question, it really started with, what's the worst that could happen? And a lot of bad things can come from that thought process, that rabbit hole I took you down, that Pandora's box I opened, Dominic, with the simple question, what's the worst that could happen? And I said, if Donald Trump were to be reelected president of the United States, God forbid, the worst that could happen, you and I, guys like you and I, oppositional radio hosts, well, Dominic, we could end up in the clink. Our asses could get arrested and marched off Brady Street. We could have our asses thrown in jail. That's the worst that could happen if Donald Trump was reelected through any magical set of circumstances. And what'd you say when I said that, Tom?
Hell no. That will never happen. Number one, I challenge the assertion that Donald Trump gets reelected. As it stands right now, 30 million people out of work, unemployment in what, 6 weeks? 62,000 U.S. citizens dead. Trump today claiming what a great job we are. We're doing so well with all our deaths. All right, and that's just the most recent terrible action. I don't accept the premise that Donald Trump gets elected, but let's assume he does for the sake of this experiment. Let's assume Donald Trump gets elected. How the hell and on what basis is he going to come down to Brady Street or send the Gestapo down to pick up Dom and Crute because they're talking trash about a POS president? I don't believe that will ever happen, ever, ever, ever. No.
So what you're saying, Dominic, is you don't think fine journalists like myself, and let's throw you in that category as well, you don't think we could ever be arrested for doing our jobs? Or do you mean you would never be arrested again while doing your job? You've already been arrested by a fascist regime here in the state of Wisconsin. Why is that so far flung that if Donald Trump were reelected,
it's an entire, because we're talking about the administrative unconstitutional.
It wasn't quite done, but please interrupt further.
Administrative rules that the Walker administration put in to try to drag the Solidarity Slingers out. We were on premise, on location at the Capitol, totally different environment. You're telling me, Crudy, that the Gestapo's going to break into the studio and drag me out from behind?
No, they'd not.
And I'm telling you, that's not going to happen. No freaking way will that ever happen. And when I hear things like that, Crude, it reminds me of the righties complaining that Obama's going to take their guns. Come on, man. Anything can happen. I think Ron Johnson told us, Crudy, Mike, anything's possible. But that being said, no, I don't believe that for a minute. On what grounds? On what basis? Under what authority? And who's going to do it? I mean, that is not the same as the Solidarity Sing-Along arrests.
No, not precisely, but that doesn't mean that you're not absolutely wrong again. And let me tell you why. And this time, don't interrupt me mid-sentence, because here's what I would say, Dom. It could happen. And I'm not saying precisely the Gestapo come and kick down the door. No, they'd knock. But if you don't think that Donald Trump would use all the powers after he's reelected through hook or crook, and I don't think it would, and I've got the whole set of circumstances thought out in my head, how this could happen. But I would say that set of circumstances ends with guys like you and I in handcuffs. And maybe we don't get tried and, guillotined in the public square, Dom. But ultimately, I think that Donald Trump, either by force, by FCC, or by FBI, would certainly pay guys like you and I a visit. And they would do so in an effort, if nothing else, even if they didn't think they had a case, Tom. And of course, we would say Constitution. And Donald Trump says, oh yeah, that's the thing I've been wiping my ass on. And here's what I would say, Dom. You don't think that Donald Trump would use the tools of either the FBI or the FCC in an effort to shut us down? To chill guys like you and I, chill, the word they often use in court, chilling prior restraint. You don't think he'd try to scare us off the airwaves? Or use the FCC to push us off the airwaves? He's already done so. He's already tried to take away others' FCC licenses.
Listen,
so maybe it's not a literal handcuff.
I let you talk. Now I'm going to jump in here. His campaign suing some up north television station for running an ad, Crudy, is not the same as using the FCC to take away your license. No,
because he hasn't won re-election yet.
Well, why wouldn't he do it now then, Crudy? I mean, if he has his power within him, what would stop him now? If Jim Acosta is not dragged out of the press room already, and this activity, this strategy, this conspiracy.
Was he denied press credentials?
This conspiracy that you being denied press credentials, which was reversed, is not the same as dragging you out of the studio and locking you up on bunk charges, Crudy.
No, it's a step in that direction. Not yet.
He'd have done it already. And he can't.
No, he wouldn't have done it already, Don, because there has to be some circumstances that happen between here and there. And first and foremost, you're a surety. And I hope you're right for a change. I hope you are right. I hope that Joe Biden is the next president. But here's what I would say. I don't share your confidence in that assertion. Neither do the American people. You realize just a couple short months ago, they polled the American people in February, and realizing there's a pandemic on, most of the polling's been about the response to the pandemic. But let's not forget, Donald Trump went through an impeachment a couple months ago, right? And you talk about all the rails of restraint, the checks and balances, maybe not specifically right now, but we talked about this earlier today. And you act like somehow Trump's going to be restrained by something. And I would say, by what? Certainly not by the Supreme Court. Certainly not by the Republicans that currently control the Senate. And Nancy Pelosi and her team over in the House, well, they used the tools of impeachment. How'd that work out? And immediately after Donald Trump was acquitted by the guy we interviewed, perhaps the best damn interview in the state of Wisconsin last year, when we interviewed Ron Johnson the day after he voted to acquit Donald Trump, he showed there are guys like Ron Johnson that are more than willing to join the fascist bandwagon, to forgive any sort of corruption from the high exalted leader, right? We know this because we saw it. And that was the start. And now Donald Trump is untethered. And there are a set of circumstances that could happen between now and election day that could lead to a circumstance where guys like you and I are hauled off in handcuffs, Tom. Probably more you than me, but you know the point.
Just sound
so
like
come back with
crazy right-wingers who were railing against Obama. Just think about how you mocked them when they were talking about Obama coming to take your guns away. That's what you sound
Dominic,
like.
Are you mocking the 67% of Americans that think Donald Trump will win re-election? I know you don't share that opinion. Come back with us. The fight continues. More Devil's Advocates.
You are the enemy of the people. If you want, we can leave the press, or we can have the press leave immediately. I'll leave that up to Scott Walker.
I think you're just stupid. I think they're idiots.
I say that you're a terrible reporter.
Together, as a community, we give our thanks to our frontline and essential service workers. From behind the scenes, these workers have accepted the risk to provide us our daily needs. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, Secretary-Treasurer of Teamsters Local 200 here in Milwaukee. With the proper steps, precautions, and common sense, the risk these workers have embraced for us will have all of us returning back to our normal routines. Let us work together, as together we can.
At Talk 92.7 FM, we know our small businesses are the lifeline of our local economy. As proud members of Dade Buy Local, we are committed to going above and beyond for local small businesses during these hard times and elevating progressive values. Every dollar spent at Talk 92.7 FM is a dollar kept within our local economy. If you're interested in learning more about promoting your business with this station, give us a call at 819-8255 or check us out at talk927fm.com. Crazy Lenny's e-bikes is an essential business and will remain open.
E-bikes are great for your health.
How much is a good e-bike?
Well, a quality e-bike with both pedal and throttle assist plus disc brakes is only $980.
Both pedal and throttle assist and disc brakes all for $980?
Right! It's a great way to get outdoors, stay healthy, fresh air, exercise, have fun while you improve your immunity.
Great cardio benefits while you practice social distancing.
Crazy Lenny's e-bikes on Odana Road is open. Yay!
Bachman Construction is your one-stop for full-service design build projects, but our team also specializes in improving your existing building. From reconfiguring your layout to adding on to your building to new construction, our team has seen just about everything and will provide quality construction to improve your business space. Quality is our foundation. Give Bachman Construction a call and let us know how we can create a better value for your space today.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. The phone lines are open. You can join us at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, when you accuse me of wearing a tinfoil hat, drinking the Kool-Aid, just because I think it could get awfully bad, let me throw a couple of things out there and we'll get the audience involved, perhaps, in this argument, conversation, debate, if you will, 844-967-2789. I will remind you, my little buddy, we had a fine guest, quote unquote, air quotes. David Plouffe came on our show. You know, Obama's guy, the guy that knew everything, the guy that got Obama elected and then reelected, came on our fine radio show and told us like a week, 10 days before the election in 2016. What was the guarantee? I think it was 100% guarantee that Hillary Clinton was going to be the president.
100%.
And we, you know, guys like you and I, we're not the experts. We don't have the insider polling that David Plouffe had the benefit of, Tom. So we believed him and we were left shell-shocked like a lot of Americans were on election day, right? You recall all that? Well, Dominic, I sent you an article, granted, this one published in February of 2020, earlier in the primary when it was less clear who the Democratic nominee might be. But this statement came out way back in February. I'm going to read it. It's brief. The latest Monmouth University 2020 election poll released Tuesday, again back in February, indicates that about 2/3 of voters believe Trump will be reelected. 2/3, while 27% say the president will definitely win, and 39% saying he will probably win. Only 22% said he will probably lose to the Democratic nominee, while just 9%, and you must be a 9%er in this chart, Dom, well, just 9% think Trump will definitely lose this fall. This was a national telephone poll. Again, this was back a few months ago, and certainly times have changed, but the circumstance has not. The perception of the American people, even those that don't want Donald Trump to win re-election, is that it's very likely he could, as many incumbent presidents do.
It was very likely he could, Michael. And listen, I appreciate your position.
Not quite done.
Other polls. All right, go ahead, man.
So here's my point, buddy. A, it could happen. B, there are lots of circumstances that could happen around the election this fall. Let's say in-person voting, let's say the electoral returns, the typical night, election night, we normally know who the next president's going to be, right? Except maybe not this time, because there's lots and lots of absentee ballots. People don't want to go to the polls. So all Donald Trump has to do is say, well, I'm ahead. I'm the victor. I declare my victory, a la George W. Bush back in 2000. And ultimately, I think we found out it was actually Al Gore that won that election, but that's not who declared victory. And eventually he had the support of the U.S. Supreme Court talking about W. Well, whether or not Donald Trump is legitimately the president and legitimately wins re-election, I strongly suspect he's going to declare victory, especially if it looks like he's ahead on election night. And it might take days or weeks to count all those absentee ballots. And now 10 days later, we find out, no, it was Joe Biden. Indeed, Joe Biden won, although Donald Trump already declared himself the winner. The perception of the American people is very well could happen. And now we got a big constitutional crisis and a nightmare, and people are marching in the streets.
Come on, man. Are you
Trump
done
can
yet?
declare martial law.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Number one, Crudy, and I appreciate your diatribe there, but I have to jump in because you lay out so many what you lay out and what you omit is the entire story. A poll that came out, any poll that came out in February, and I grant it, this is not just the Vox poll, there's CBS polls, there's Gallup polls, there's other polls out there at the time that said, yeah, Trump will probably win. All right, number one, that was before 62,000 people died. That was before 30 million people became unemployed. This is an entirely new universe from what it was 2 or 3 months ago, Crudy. And to just sit there and say, that was then, this is now, entirely undercuts the reality of that situation. People continue to die. Millions of people continue to lose their jobs. This is not going to be a V-shaped recovery, not with the economy. We're not going to, and we have very, very, very likely to have multiple phases of this virus coming around. So all the other things aside, Crudy, what happened 3 months ago is absolutely irrelevant to what the scenario is, what the reality is today. So I just think discounting that to go along with your assertions gives the wrong impression. That number one. Number two, can Donald Trump win? Sure. There's going to be 2 people on the ballot, and odds he's an incumbent. I mean, odds are technically, I think, historically in his favor. So I'm not saying that he won't win. I have a very hard time believing that he would win, given the circumstances that we find ourselves in right now. I don't believe that. So we go down that road. Yes, Donald Trump somehow, he claims victory? Well, come on, man.
Perhaps illegitimately claims
I'm not done
victory.
yet. I'm not done yet. If he claims victory, so what? I mean, politicians claim victory all the time. That doesn't mean they actually won. So what? He claims victory, the absentee ballots comes in, and then what?
I don't know. Maybe
and
an
the
Al
votes are
Gore,
against him, and he says, I already
George
won.
W. scenario. You think the people are going to sit back and accept the outcome if Donald Trump declares himself, perhaps illegitimately, declares himself the winner of the election? Whether or not he won, he's going to declare victory.
I don't agree with that assertion regardless, Crudy. Are you kidding me? I mean, how come
you don't think Trump would declare victory even erroneously?
So what you're saying is Trump will declare victory no matter what?
If it looks like he won, yes, he will declare victory on election night before all the votes are tabulated.
If it doesn't look like you won, Crudy, will he still declare victory?
No, he'll declare that it was fraud and he was defrauded.
Okay.
And either way, he could either inspire his followers to get out there and march in the streets with their AR-15s, or he could inspire millions of people that don't believe there's any legitimate way that Donald Trump won re-election, and they get out in the streets and they start marching, and suddenly something starts burning, and he calls out the National Guard, or he declares martial law. And from there, it gets worse and worse and worse. Come back with us. How bad could it get? What's the worst that could happen? You choose not to call us at 844-967-2789. We'll be right back.
Given my experience working for Mr. Trump, I fear that if he loses the election in 2020, that there will never be a peaceful transition of power.
Michael Cohen is a very talented lawyer. He's a good lawyer, my friend.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on Talk 92.7 FM. Weekdays, hear the Santita Jackson Show from 6 to 8 a.m. Next, it's Stephanie Miller from 8 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's Matt Flynn Direct. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. At 6, it's Busted Pencils and Maggie Dawn. And at 7, it's Democracy Now! Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at talk927fm.com.
So, Darcy, it's too bad we can only meet during 30-second commercials because I have some follow-up questions for you.
Sure, Dom. I'll give you 20 seconds.
Well, you say, don't call the sign to see the property with that agent, or you're not free to write an offer for me. But why? And why is it your services would be free?
Those are excellent questions, Dom. Just not for a radio ad. Just go to our website
at solidarityrealty.com
and click on the orange button on the homepage that says, why not just call the sign?
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. And you won't be limited to 30 seconds. Find them at solidarityrealty.com.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus and W224EG 92.7 FM Madison. Always streaming at talk927fm.com.
From the Capitol in Madison, this is Wiz Politics Midday.
I'm Stephanie Hoff, your host, and this podcast is brought to you by Spectrum. Conservative Supreme Court Justice Daniel Kelly announced he will join the proceedings to purge voters who may have moved from the rolls. This is after he recused himself from the proceedings due to him being in the April 7th election. Pat Pavletti is on with me today for more on Kelly's decision. Pat, why the change of heart?
The initial decision was made because he felt that there would be a conflict of interest if he was ruling on a case that could have an impact on the election. Now, remember, he was on the ballot for a full 10-year term on April 7th, but he lost to Madison-based Judge Jill Karofsky. Karofsky doesn't take over on the Supreme Court until August 1st, though, so there is a small lame duck window here, and in that period, Kelly says since he's no longer conflicted in ruling on this since the election has passed, he's going to reassert himself in the case.
How is Kelly's decision to join the proceedings going to tip the scale of conservative and liberal justices and possibly affect the outcome of the suit?
Well, as things stand right now, conservatives hold a 5-2 advantage on the Supreme Court. But one thing that's worth noting here, though, is when this suit was kind of moving through the courts, the court was asked to rule on this directly. And because Kelly was recused, there was a 3-3 deadlock on whether to take the case. One conservative member, Brian Hagedorn, who just won a seat on the court last year, joined the two liberals and declined to take the case. Because that happened, the case then went to a lower appeals court. And that court ruled that the commission doesn't have any duty to remove voters from the rolls.
So, Pat, the suit has kind of been going on for a while. And, I mean, is there a plan as to when the Supreme Court will wrap this up?
Well, they haven't yet voted to take the case. So that's kind of what's expected to be the next step here. And Kelly's participation could tip that. Now, remember, Hagedorn's vote wasn't necessarily to not take the case in its entirety. It was to not bypass an appeals court in order to take the case. So we're still not sure how he'll view that. But if he chooses to maintain his position and not take this case, Kelly's move would likely mean the court would vote 4-3 to accept the case.
And for the latest updates on this court ruling, you can tune into WizPolitics.com for more. Until tomorrow, I'm Stephanie Hoff. Thanks for tuning in.
This has been Wiz Politics Midday. For more state government and political news, visit WizPolitics.com.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. How bad could it get? Well, if Donald Trump is reelected, legitimately or illegitimately, I think society could break down nearly immediately. Dominic, I asked you before. I said, the Roman Empire fell. Why did that happen?
Crudy, and again, being an Italian, I have some insight to this. The Roman Empire, my friend, fell because of incest and lead pipes.
Well, here's what I would say in response to that, little buddy. Donald Trump's already encouraging people to ingest Clorox, and he wants to sleep with his own daughter. We're there right now. 844-967-2789. Gonna hit the phones. Lots of you think it could get really bad. Let's start with Tom from Cedarburg today. Tom, welcome to the party. What do you got for us?
Hey, Tom.
Well, hi, guys. I think Pruitt has a point. I think it wouldn't be right away, but it might be a few years down the road. But what I think is more likely to happen, and this is what I fear, is that I think the wealthy see that AM 1510 really does make a difference. I think you guys were really helpful in the past election with the judge, and I think Evers would not be governor unless you guys were on the air. And I think because of that, what's more likely to happen is you're going to be bought out. You know, somebody rich is going to come along, spend a few million, and there goes the competition. That's what I fear.
Thanks for the call, Tom. Crudy, any response?
Well, how many millions? Let's
we can
move
always
on.
start.
Keep moving down the phones.
Hey,
I don't
we
even
can
want to
always
think
start a
about that.
podcast. Tom, thank you for the call. And I'd like to think we have some positive impact, at least to have, get conversations going, Tom, and it helps when you and the audience and everyone jumps in. But I mean, this specific conversation started with Crudy telling me today that, if Trump wins, I'm going to get drug out of the studio because I'm, criticizing the president. And we're not other countries. And yes, we have history of we see, the civil rights movement, for example. I mean, you can go back years and we have the Posse Comitatus Act, right? Generally speaking, the federal government cannot deploy troops within the country. Now, that's not always the case. There is an Insurrection Act that would allow them to do so. But generally, I mean, if we're talking about this kind of power, it's generally reserved for the states. The states would be more likely to do something like that. Maybe the Republican states more likely to do something like that than the president invoking the Insurrection Act because Dominic and Crudy are hurting his fragile ego.
Well, it's not about hurting his fragile ego. It's about hurting his re-election in the state of Wisconsin, the swingiest and most important swing state to his re-election. And ultimately, I don't think he's got to come down with the troops and drag your ass out of the studio, Dom. He'd call up the FBI or maybe the IRS. And I think it'd be double down audits for both of us.
Okay.
And he could harangue us through the FCC, the FBI, and the IRS, or tie us up in litigation till my ass is broke. And that multi-million-dollar offer from rich billionaire Republican would seem awfully appealing, wouldn't it?
So I want to be clear on that. So we're not talking about me getting drug out of the studio in handcuffs because I'm insulting
I thought the FBI
leader.
would probably knock on the door.
Okay, and I hear you knocking, but you can't come in. Are you going to have a warrant for this? How legitimately is this going to happen, Crudy? I mean, that's what I'm saying. There must be there is a disregard for reality. If you think that Donald Trump's going to call up the FBI and say, "Go pick up Dominic," it doesn't work that way, dude.
Yet, but it could get worse. 844-967-2789. Dom, going to the phones. Our pal Dave from Evansville. Dave, I hope you're doing better today, buddy. Join the conversation. What's your thought?
Hey, Dave.
I'm doing basically the same as yesterday, but joining the conversation, I have to say, Mike, what is wrong with you? Isn't it funny, Dom, that all those years ago, I used to call up and complain about you, and now I'm complaining about Crudy all the time. And you're my best bud. Jeez.
Well, just keep listening, Dave. I'm sure you'll give it to me later. All right. So you think you disagree with Crudy, Dave? What about it though? Do you think Trump? Do you think it's not within his? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. He's turning the show into Crudy's speculation. A couple of days ago, it was speculation of speculatory reporting on Biden, which now
slow down, buddy.
Not real. And I mean, it's all over the news today that it's not real.
No,
that's not true, Dave. That's not true.
Mike.
We had sources, man. We quoted our sources. They were reputable sources, Dave. Don't act like I was spinning a conspiracy theory because I read an article out of the Washington Post or the Business Insider.
Thank you for the call, Dave. Let's keep going on the phones. 844-967-2789.
And Dominic did some reading too, just for the record.
Yeah, I did. And Dave, we also, perhaps we'll get to this later. Chris Hayes, Fire Chris Hayes, apparently started trending on Twitter because he interviewed the same author of The Cut in the New Yorker magazine. We quoted her piece.
New York magazine, I think.
New York magazine, the Joe Biden trap. Actually reached out to that author yesterday, tried to get her. She actually went on Chris Hayes, and perhaps it's better because now Chris Hayes, apparently some progressives or Democrats want him fired for going down this road. But ultimately, we've had those conversations. This is now all over the place. It's not just speculation. These reports are in the paper. They are front page news. Let's keep going on the phones. In this regard, though, I want to know, I mean, if Donald Trump gets elected, is he going to bring the hammer down on Dominic for being critical? Mark from the SAC, what do you think?
Well, he could always try to use the Espionage Act, even though the Sedition Act of 1918 was overturned in 1920. And I had to look that up, but I thought that's what had happened. Where they were arresting people and just tossing them in jail for merely speaking out against the war. Look at what happened to the Hutterites in Folsom Prison.
Okay, but then in order for that to be
or
accurate, Mark, then we'd have to be in war with what? China, Iran? We're in war at this.
He could just. I think Trump would probably just declare war with the virus and try to leave it at that. And granted, I don't think that's quite going to happen. But I'd like to hear what happened a little bit more about what happened over in Michigan. There were, it sounds like armed citizens actually kind of stormed the Capitol and kind of broke into the Capitol building there to demand Governor Whitmer to be removed.
You're bringing a scoop to our audience. I had not heard the story about.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Is this new news, Mark, or is this from the protest a couple weeks ago?
This is new news as far as I know, because I heard it on the radio coming back from cancer treatment number 9. So I'm quite kind of unsure of what if it's happened today or.
Well, source it for us, buddy, and share that with us, and we'll certainly share it. I mean, if it's happening in real time, we'll report it as soon as we can verify it. Do you think it can get really bad, Mark? I mean, I am thinking, it's hard to fire a guy like Rudy. I think once upon a time, and, I have to be conspiratorial about why the former incarnation of progressive talk radio went off the air in Madison on election day of 2016. Because no one ever gave me a plausible explanation as to why. A relatively profitable endeavor, Lefty Radio. I know there was a afternoon drive time product that was the greatest ever, some people said. So who did we piss off? Why did we get thrown out? Well, guess what? You can't fire me. You can't fire me anymore. You can't pressure the station owner to get rid of Crudy. Or Dom, for that matter, although I might be more willing to the latter argument. But you know what I'm saying? If you can't fire me, you could certainly go after my licensing. You could certainly audit me from here to bankruptcy. You could certainly utilize the power of the federal government to crush the opposition, guys like me. I don't think that's such a stretch. The guy's already got an enemies list. The guy's already threatened to pull FCC licenses on major media outlets. Well, I'm just a little guy. It'd be easy to crush me like a bug and easier to crush Dom.
Never crush me.
And I have no problem, that I understand what you're saying, because Donald Trump is, that he screws somebody on paying for a bill and he says, well, sue me. And the people don't have the resources to actually sue him because he's got lawyers up the yin-yang that are defending him. So Donald Trump would have no problem with twisting the law to go after you. And that at this point in time, he probably isn't aware of your existence, fortunately.
Hey, Dom shook his hand.
He shook my hand.
He swapped spit one time in Iowa.
And if he didn't know about you, he probably would forget the next moment because whatever his Adderall dosage is, that is current for that day. And that at some point in time they're going to mismanage that, and he's going to stroke out on live television and follow.
Sorry, Mark. We got to keep going.
Now we're going in a different direction. Perhaps a little wishful thinking on somebody's part.
Did. I mean, Trump did look like he was chasing a little bit recently. His eyes are wandering, his jaws kind of clenching.
Come on, man.
Yes.
Don't get all speculative, or Dave will call you on it. I would just point out the guy that mentored Donald Trump, Roy Cohn. You recall the Red Scare and Senator Joe McCarthy and the enemies list and the wrecking of people's careers and lives?
Yes.
Well, he's already got his Wisconsin senator. Ron Johnson's already investigating his political rival for him. Tell you about Hunter Biden. Well, Ron might not be our buddy again if his Cheeto Messiah wins re-election. We might not get coverage. We might get called up on the Hill Because we might be accused for what?
What are you
I'm going to get accused of being a communist, man. I supported Bernie Sanders.
Grandeur. So what if someone says you're a communist? So this isn't back then, man. This is 2020.
Oh no, it's not back then at all.
We have a Democratic socialist running for president, dude. I mean,
yeah,
he
got crushed by his own
party. Communist doesn't deserve in this day and age. You're not going to get called out. You're not going to get drug away. This is ridiculous. I mean, the fact that you even think that because these things happened in the past is going to happen again. And granted,
history never repeats itself. We should never learn from history.
History absolutely repeats itself, Crudy. That's not the point. The point is, my argument to you and my position to you, in today's environment, when you have a Democratic socialist running for president, when you have the federal government giving everybody $1,200 checks, it's going to be really hard for someone to come out and say, Crudy's a communist, take him off the air. I mean, this is
he's
ridiculous.
He's undermining the government of the United States, and we've had riots in the street, and he is inciting riots on the airwaves. Let's pull his license. Does that seem like such a stretch? Because I've incited some stuff in my life. 844-967-2789. Trying to get a few more callers in right away. Doogie from Chicago. What's your thought, Doogie?
How you doing? Okay, I'm dead serious about this. I'm not let's just say that he is reelected. This is a very serious issue. We are in very strange times. This is a man who idolizes authoritative dictators. So as an example, now there's two angles I want to go with. Donald Trump has Russian ties and Mitch McConnell has Russian ties. Okay. And no one has ever brought this up, is why the heck is Republicans always falling in line? And it's bigger than America. It's bigger than the United States. When you look at Putin, he has literally set out to poison dissenters, even in England. Okay. So I believe that Mitch McConnell has threatened all of his Republican senators and says, hey, you don't want the wrath of the Russian mafia coming after you, so you better fall in line and just let Trump do what he does and let me do what I do. Now, the second thing is, this man idolizes these dictators. Now, when you see that Duterte in the Philippines has, when he was elected, he said, okay, the police, I allow you to do extrajudicial murders in the streets against drug dealers and drug users.
Sorry, dude, you got to cut you short, man. We're going to run out of time there. But that is not this country, man. That's not going to happen here.
Well, could never happen here. Because if you don't know history, you're entirely woke, right? Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. 844-967-2789.
They're trying to take you out with bullshit.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
If you're not happy here, you can leave. You are the enemy of the people. You can leave right now.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Together, as a community, we give our thanks to our frontline and essential service workers. From behind the scenes, these workers have accepted the risk to provide us our daily needs. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, Secretary Treasurer of Teamsters Local 200 here in Milwaukee. With the proper steps, precautions, and common sense, the risk these workers have embraced for us will have all of us returning back to our normal routines. Let us work together, as together we can.
Crazy Lenny's e-bikes is an essential business and will remain open.
E-bikes are great for your health.
How much is a good e-bike?
Well, a quality e-bike with both pedal and throttle assist plus disc brakes is only $980.
Both pedal and throttle assist and disc brakes all for $980?
Right! It's a great way to get outdoors, stay healthy, fresh air, exercise, have fun while you improve your immunity.
Great cardio benefits while you practice social distancing.
Crazy Lenny's e-bikes on Odana Road is open. Yay!
Oh, yeah. What you say?
You say Nasala Kombucha. It'll put some glide in your stride and some pep in your step. Nasala Kombucha. Yeah.
Nasala Kombucha makes your body happy.
Nasala Kombucha. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, and nasala.com.
Grass-fed, locally raised, 100% organic. Dom and Cruz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open 844-967-2789. Better call now before you get taken away by Trump. Profane Ronnie, you are next. Thanks for calling, Ronnie. What do you got for us?
Hey, Ronnie.
Hello, Ronnie. Oh, come on, Ronnie. All right, you're going to have to try us back. Neil from...
Gosh darn it, Ronnie.
Neil from Madison, you're up. What do you got for us today, Neil?
I am in agreement with the fact that Trump will try to arrest reporters and news media. One, he's got he has
on what grounds?
Neil,
right off the bat, on what grounds would he arrest any reporter?
If a reporter of some sort comes across with some
whatever, that effectively Republican governors can award him the presidency. I hadn't even thought down that rabbit hole yet, Ronnie. My whole thing was...
Go ahead.
Well, my whole thing was I thought effectively we could see an election night where we didn't have a clear sense of the winner. And all it would take is a incorrect declaration that, let's say, Trump had won the state of Wisconsin, and we didn't actually have the full outcome of the ballots because so many of the Democrats stay away from the polls and perhaps mail-in absentee ballots. Well, we know Republicans are fighting everything. They're fighting for a voter purge. They are effectively fighting against absentee ballots, although the DNC and the Democratic Party of Wisconsin renewed their lawsuit on this topic, and I don't have enough information. Hope to report it later in the show. But Ronnie, I think we could have a contested general election, and if that happens, Donald Trump's going to declare himself the winner, and people like you and I are going to go want to march in the streets, because there's no way in hell that I'm going to let Donald Trump do what George W. did, which was basically a Brooks Brother riot outside the counting office in Florida. They effectively sent guys like Matt Gaetz down there to pound on the doors, and then the U.S. Supreme Court got involved. And what do you know? George W., he's the president. So I don't think this is all so unprecedented that we couldn't expect some sort of electoral malfeasance that could lead to people marching in the streets against Trump, or, you know, quite frankly, the opposite happening. Donald Trump declares victory or declares the election was rigged or stolen from him. And now we got a bunch of highly armed Trump supporters out there burning stuff. And he declares martial law, and he starts rounding up guys like Dom and Crute.
What? Come on, Ronnie, thank you for the call. We got to keep going. If Donald Trump supporters are in the street, why would Donald Trump declare martial law? If anything, the local governors would declare martial law if they're burning things in the street, Crudy. Let's keep going. Joe from Stevens Point, you're up. What do you got for us?
Hey, Joe.
Hey, fellas. Let's not forget in 2016, Donald Trump said that he would like to lift the liability suits that he could sue reporting. That was one of the first things, because it was a rough campaign with that.
Donald Trump also mused about whether or not you could inject disinfectant to cure the coronavirus. I mean,
Donald Trump literally sued a TV station in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, possibly forcing them into bankruptcy, to basically set an example and say, you better not cross me. If Trump was suing me, I'd be in bankruptcy court before it was all said and done.
Hey, guys, Barack Obama got rid of habeas corpus, made Bush tax cuts permanent. We got a long history, and that's why we got to really, Joe Biden's got to get out in front of this stuff, because he's bleeding support in all areas. And that's why a robust Democratic platform is needed. That guy needs some cover.
Thank you for the call, Joe. Want to squeeze in one more before the top of the hour. Tom, you're up. What do you got for us today?
Hey, Tom.
Hey guys. This is LA Tom. First off, we the people are the government. Second is that, Crudy, I think you're absolutely right. I don't think it's a big stretch to think that they would maybe go after the LGBTQ community first, because of the fact the Supreme Court will be either 6-3 or 6-2 or 7-2 by that time. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, you got to picture it. And Dominic, I think that you're wrong here, because of the fact that it can happen so quick. Everyone's connected to bank accounts. Everyone's connected to different things. They could take us out. And one thing plus with this pandemic thing, I mean, hopefully this pandemic thing is teaching everyone that we have the power as the people. But the thing is, when you start talking about giving Donald Trump even more power as an authoritarian dictator, he'll go after the LGBTQ plus community. He'll go after the liberals. He'll go after anybody. And the thing is,
Tom, got to cut you off right there. We got a fine guest coming back on the other side. Our friend Christy Newman Ortiz from Voces de la Frontera.
The president in no way, form, or fashion has ever promoted or encouraged violence.
So if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously.
Together, as a community, we give our thanks to our frontline and essential service workers. From behind the scenes, these workers have accepted the risk to provide us our daily needs. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, Secretary-Treasurer of Teamsters Local 200 here in Milwaukee. With the proper steps, precautions, and common sense, the risk these workers have embraced for us will have all of us returning back to our normal routines. Let us work together, as together we can.
When you need an attorney, trust the voice of experience, the only choice. Lawton and Cates.
I chose Lawton and Cates because I was looking for a team of lawyers that had case law studies. I'm very pleased with the outcome. The Lawton and Cates attorneys have done an excellent job in protecting my interests.
If your life is disrupted by an injury or other legal dispute, trust the voice of experience. Call the attorneys at Lawton and Cates, 282-6200, 282-6200.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus and W224EG 92.7 FM Madison. Always streaming at Talk 92.7 FM.
Hundreds of you have generously donated to the Real Resistance Radio's GoFundMe this year, and here's what you've said. Donor Tom says, "You guys rock." Catherine said, "I received my government relief check and just want to spread the love. You guys are awesome." Mike said, "Glad you guys are strongly back on the air in Madison and growing. Keep up the good work in what you are doing." Thank you all. You have made this listener-supported essential radio.
So, Darcy, I know you said you would work with Republicans, but I was wondering, would you work with me?
Well, of course, Tom. I also work with social, liberal, libertarian, economic conservatives. Everybody deserves expert real estate advice. You do believe in equal opportunity, right?
Well, yes.
You didn't vote for Scott Walker again, did you?
No.
Then we're good.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Find them online at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.